We have a very nice relationship with leadership right now, and we'll see. But we did a 3-day pause. It was supposed to be a 50% straight across the board tariff, and I delayed it at the request of Canada for 3 days so we can iron out the details. But it's going to be a wonderful deal, hopefully a wonderful deal for everybody. Yeah.
So we're waiting on that deal right now. There's a 3-day pause that's planned for this 50% tariff on Canadian goods that's now in effect. President Trump announcing the delay after suggesting that this tentative deal agreement is very close with the neighbors to the north.
And while the president believes we're nearing a deal, he's also hinting at possibly reviving the Keystone XL pipeline, posting on social media an AI-generated photo of himself next to the canceled project, suggesting that it might be awoken from the grave. All right, with us now, Dan McTeague is the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Michael Charbonne's here, Canadian correspondent and host of the Charbonne Report. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Michael, I'd like to start with you, and maybe we focus in on the tariff pause first. What kind of deal is President Trump, you think, looking for?
Well, President Trump is looking for some leverage here. First of all, Kentucky bourbon and California wine is off the shelves. That's worth a lot of money. That's a leverage point. Second of all, reigniting the Keystone XL pipeline takes Canadian oil to America. That's another leverage point. We need to resolve this. Could cost 200,000 jobs in America, 100,000 jobs in Canada if the 50% tariff is ignited. So there's actually some movement happening. And although the bluster and accusations of saying we're going to put a 50% tariff, President Trump brought the people back to the table, and hopefully we're going to have some resolution before Saturday, Emma.
Dan, let's talk about that Keystone XL pipeline. I know you were dialed in on the oil industry in Canada, across the world as well. President Biden actually nixed this, and then President Trump, he wants to revive it. But, I mean, this project has been in the works since 2008. It was proposed, and it hasn't been able to get done. There's a lot of hurdles, whether it be legal, international, intercontinental, or not intercontinental, cross-border, rather. How difficult would it be to restart this pipeline? If this is part of the deal, wouldn't you need the Canadian government, let alone private companies, to be on board with it? And would it be years down the road that this would even be operational?
So let's understand that.
Wait, I'm going to Dan there. Sorry, Michael. One second.
Sorry, referred to this a little earlier with respects to the Bridger pipeline expansion. Is that the Canadian side's already pretty much built, and I think the approvals are certainly in place, unless the government wants to change its position. But this is obviously important for America at a time in which Cushing is starting to run a little low, which we're seeing diesel crack spreads, the 3-2-1, at over $100 a barrel. This is unprecedented. Canadian heavy oil does provide something that America desperately needs, as does Canada. It's diesel, and you can't produce that with light, tight shale. I note that the real, challenge for this proposal isn't so much what the new proponent, South Bow, taken over from TransCanada Energy, and of course the Bridger itself. The Bridger pipeline expansion will be fine to get it down to Wyoming. It's what happens from Wyoming to Cushing that's going to be the real challenge. If everything works out well, you get the permits that you need. This could be right up and ready, or at least starting sometime this time next year, and that would be a great thing. As far as the approvals are concerned, up and running by 2030. That would be a big boost, not just to America, but to Canada, which is suffering from a very weak Canadian dollar as a result of divestment from a lot of things, including energy.
Sorry, just to be clear, I don't mean to jump in, Emma, but the pipeline's built from Alberta down to the border. Is that so? It would just be the American side of it that would have to get approved, and maybe President would fast track that.
That's right. There's already what we call a 2.2 kilometer, but it's actually about a 1.5 mile bridge that goes right across Canada to the United States. Is already there. The pipeline is already established. The infrastructure is there. There would be some issue of connecting further from a place called Hardisty, Alberta, into the Canadian-U.S. border. But on the Canadian side, because there was anticipation this would happen, and no one anticipated that President Biden would follow through with President Obama and kill the project midway, the Canadian side is pretty much looked after. It'd be a great boost, obviously, to the country.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with what's going on in the Middle East right now. We've seen gas prices stateside continue to fluctuate and unfortunately tend to stay above $4 a gallon. You'd love to see those way below that. Michael, President Trump, though, he's talking about how these trade talks are going to impact and protect American farmers. Here's that moment.
The tariffs will be non-existent for our farmers. Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero.
And pretty optimistic here, but this could be really impactful.
85%, Emma, of the potash that goes to America to power America farming is coming from Canada. And President Trump is correct. If he does this, we're going to be on a glide path to success for a North American unity of Canada and the United States.
Very good. And you don't even have to become the 51st state. We can find another way to work with one another. Dan and Michael, thanks so much for joining us here today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks,
All
John.
right, take care.